It's Monday, August 19. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett says the pension scheme for tourism workers is a commitment by the government to make sure there is social security and protection for workers in the sector. The pension scheme, which is expected to come into effect early 2020, is a defined contributory plan supported by legislation and will require mandatory contribution by workers and employers. It will cover all workers from 18 to 65 years in the tourism sector, whether permanent, contract, or self-employed. Benefits will be payable at age 65 years or older.
The scheme will cover all workers of tourism enterprises who are 18 years and over up to 65. At 65, it's the formal pensionable age. Now, you can be part of the scheme beyond age 65, but the pensionable age is 65. That is to say, you wouldn't be able to get a pension except for certain circumstances, which I will indicate, until you are age 65. And those circumstances has to do with incapacitation as a result of illnesses, right? Or any acts of God or the Queen's enemy that creates that level of incapacity on your side.
Minister Bartlett also highlighted a unique feature of the scheme, which is one can become a member of the pension scheme at age 59. Though such pensioners would only contribute for 5 years, they would qualify for the same benefits as those who would have contributed from the start.
And how did that happen? That came about because the government of Jamaica, the government, decided that we would put $1 billion from the Tourism Enhancement Fund into the scheme fund, so as to seed it, so to speak, and to create the base so that those who have been contributors for only 5 years can still get a pension that is equal to a minimum of $200,000 a year.
The minister gave further details on the workings of the scheme.
The minute you are employed full-time, then it kicks in. And do I have an option to join or not to join? No. The law is making this a compulsory pension act, which enables everybody and requires everybody. That's the word. Requires everybody to join. But it also does something else. It requires every employer to participate with the employee. And so initially, it will be a 3% deduction from your weekly or monthly salary, as the case might be, and the employer will contribute an equal 3%.
The Tourism Workers Pension Fund will be managed by a board of trustees who will appoint an investment manager and an administrator to manage the investment and operations of the scheme. The fund will be tax-exempt and regulated by the Financial Services Commission. The Jamaica Public Service Company's 2019 to 2024 tariff review application was rejected on Friday by the Office of Utilities Regulation because of deficiencies. The JPS says the application is based on a detailed investment plan for further modernization of the country's energy infrastructure over the next 5 years. The plan includes improved reliability and quality of service, reduced outage duration and frequency, and improved customer service. The JPS says it has not yet determined a date for resubmission of its application to the OUR. The utilities regulator says it could not accept the application because of some deficiencies, including the absence of critical data and supporting documentation. State Minister in the Education Ministry, Alando Terilong, is reminding the public that the ministry has abolished the term auxiliary fees and replaced it with parent support contribution. He is calling for continued efforts in making education accessible and affordable to all. The minister stated in a release that a bulletin was distributed by the acting Chief Education Officer, Winnie Berry, to all schools, outlining the ministry's position on fees, disbursements, and additional resources for schools. The bulletin noted that students should not be denied entry to schools because of their parents' inability to pay. The policy is that contribution cannot be mandatory and must not be a requirement for registration, school access, attendance, or criteria for graduation, examination slips, application to sixth form, or access to any public service at a public educational institution. No more than $5,000 is allowed to be charged for registration packages for new students for this academic year. Schools should discuss and get approval from their regional director for the categories that will fall on the school payment voucher. Parents must not be forced to pay a contribution. The government is endorsing a US $480,000 Jamaica Global Services Sector project aimed at strengthening the local outsourcing industry. Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Pernell Charles Jr., said that project, titled Moving Firms Up the Value Chain Project, is a critical investment that will grow the business process outsourcing, that's BPO sector, and create more high-level jobs for young people. The Jamaica GSS project will assist local firms to digitize their operations and embrace growing trends in the sector. Among the specific objectives is the development of a general GSS strategic roadmap to help members refine and improve their growth strategy and carry out an industry forecast to identify and move into niche markets. Minister Charles Jr. was speaking at the launch of the project last week at the Inter-American Development Bank headquarters in St. Andrew. Minister of National Security Dr. Chang says solving crime is not just the duty of the security forces, but also the responsibility of communities working in partnership with the police. Addressing the quarterly luncheon of the Jamaica All-Island Chambers of Commerce in Clarendon recently, the minister said with the heavily funded, technological enhanced, modern criminal networks operating, policing methods must also be enhanced. Dr. Chang encouraged members of the Chambers of Commerce island-wide to become public safety ambassadors under the Live Good initiative to be launched in September. He also urged members to collaborate with the Jamaica Eye program by linking their private security camera systems with them and even getting advice about the right cameras to install so that footage captured from robberies can be used in investigation. Dr. Jalani Naya, coordinator of the Rastafarian Studies Center and Ganja projects at the University of the West Indies, Mona, believes that a national day should be declared to honor Jamaica's first national hero, Marcus Messiah Garvey. On Saturday, August 17, Jamaica remembered the iconic man and his contribution to the development of the nation. He says efforts have been made by people all over the world to celebrate this day, but the land of his birth, Jamaica, has not yet recognized his day by way of a national day. Delegates of the Caribbean Broadcasting Union, CBU, last week recommitted to renewing and re-energizing the CBU during the nation's 50th Annual General Assembly in San Andres Island, Colombia. The commitment comes, as the CBU said in a release, at, quote, a critical time for change in the global media industry, end quote. Addressing the Assembly on Wednesday, CBU President Gary Allen hailed the present and past leadership of the CBU for their vision and hard work. He said that there is a need for sincere commitment to preserve Indigenous broadcasters because of the integral role they play in social and economic development. The CBU says its members have agreed to chart the way for a new strategic direction to improve visibility, communication, membership and cooperation for its existing and future members. In regional news, the Guyana Elections Commission, GCOM, did not make a decision on the controversial house-to-house registration exercise when the full commission met last Thursday. Thursday's meeting was first hosted by the chairman of the commission, retired Justice Claudette Singh, since her appointment on July 29. It also came one day after the High Court ruled that the registration exercise is not unlawful, but advised GCOM to look at other ways of verification. More from Newsroom Guyana's Pbcjj.
Thursday's meeting was the first hosted by Chairman of the Commission, Justice retired Claudette Singh, since her appointment on July 29th, and it also came one day after the court ruled that the registration exercise is not unlawful. According to government-nominated GCOM Commissioner Vincent Alexander, upon receipt of the written ruling, a meeting will be convened to determine the way forward.
The question of the way forward in some regards was not determined, in the main because we're still not recipients of the written decision of the judge, and there are those of us who would prefer not to rely on reports and third-hand information.
Speaking with the media outside of GCOM's High Street office, Mr. Alexander said at that meeting, the commissioners and chairman will also be discussing an elections plan. The Chief Elections Officer, Keith Lowenfield, has since been tasked with making suggestions to be discussed to form the plan.
We sat today and took a decision that the CEO, and this was a consensual position, the CEO will come to us with the scenarios, and those scenarios will include house-to-house and other scenarios for the delivery of election.
The Commission has not met since June 24th, when former Chairman Justice retired James Patterson demitted office. At Thursday's meeting, the Commission was updated on the registration exercise and preparations for elections. According to Alexander, so far, over 230,000 persons have been registered in the ongoing exercise. Additionally, he said GCOM will begin training of elections officials for polling day from August 17th in Georgetown, while procurement of elections materials has also begun.
Much has been done in terms of the orders for the non-essential and some essential election material. So the orders are out there. Even in some instances, payment has been made. It's a question of delivery.
The commissioner said the time frame for the training is dependent on the availability of trainers. The president is awaiting advice from GCOM before he proclaims a date for national elections.
In the meantime, opposition leader Bartlett Jagdeo says the People's Progressive Party, the PPP, will not be supporting any extensions for election deadline. On June 18, Guyana's full appellate court, the Caribbean Court of Justice, ruled that December's no-confidence motion against the coalition government was valid, and the Guyana Constitution requires that elections be held 90 days after such a motion. Jagdeo is insisting that elections be held on September 18, 3 months after the CCJ ruling. Newsroom Guyana's Fariza Hanif has the details.
The Caribbean Court of Justice has already ruled that the December 21st, 2018 no-confidence motion is valid, triggering the constitutional provision for elections in 3 months. But an election date in Guyana can only be extended in the National Assembly with the support of 2/3 of the members. In the government's case, it only has a one-seat majority, which means it will need the support of the opposition. An application which was filed by attorney Christopher Ram for the High Court to order the Elections Commission to set a date for elections on or before September 18, 2019, was denied by the Chief Justice Wednesday. Following that ruling, the WPA, which makes up a small faction in the coalition government, urged the PPP to return to Parliament to facilitate the desired extension of the life of the government. The WPA noted that the refusal of the PPP to do so would further tarnish the party's image and render it unfit to lead Guyana. But Jagdeo took umbrage to the WPA's statement.
The court said that this is for the executive to deal with. You either comply with the Constitution or you get an extension in time on the basis of a vote in the National Assembly of 2/3 of the members. And we have already made that clear. There shall be no extension. We are not voting to extend the life of this government, period. That's it. So there shall be no extension. Therefore, the 3 months have expired several times now.
According to Mr. Jagdeo, based on the CCJ ruling, elections should have been held since March 21, 2019.
Over in St. Lucia, negotiations have broken down between the government and the trade unions on a collective bargaining agreement. Stanley Lucian of HDS News Force reports.
It was supposed to be the last step in what has been a protracted journey, but the deal fell through at the final hurdle, resulting with the parties walking away from the negotiating table without a signed deal. The Trade Union Federation had what was being classified as niggling concerns, but in the end, they were deal breakers.
This matter settled because we understand that our members have been waiting for 6 years for some relief, and so for us, we've been very eager. Every time we've been given very short notice, we've tried to make ourselves available for the signing. We discovered that 3 of our affiliates, the Correctional Services, the CSA, and the Fire Service Association, had negotiated clauses with the government. That the government decided that it would not put in the collective agreement, but that these affiliates would have a MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, and that we would have signed that together with the collective agreement. We have arrived here today, and these 3 affiliates have no copy of the Memorandum of Understanding. We are being told that it was sent to Cabinet and it has not returned. The truth is, these are negotiated positions that the affiliates have with the GNT. If we go ahead and sign the collective agreement, it means, therefore, that government can renege on its commitment to sign that MOU.
The chairman of the government negotiating team, Vern Gill, says the demands being made by the public sector unions are beyond its powers.
We came ready to sign, and we were advised by the union that as far as they were concerned, there were some matters still outstanding, and on that basis they've deferred the signing. They've requested a deferring of the signing.
What does that mean for the
Well, we'll address the concerns that there is and resolve them.
That we are standing together and we are standing in solidarity with each other, and therefore we are not going to sign any collective agreement until these 3 affiliates have their MOUs with government.
So it's back to the principle, the executive branch of government. The public sector unions are standing their ground and are threatening to up the ante if the government fails to make good on its agreements in principle.
In sports, the legendary Brian Lara and Ramnaresh Sarwan will work with West Indies batsmen ahead of the first of the 2 test matches against India. Lara, one of the greatest batsmen of all time, and Sarwan, who is one of the leading players of his generation from the Caribbean, will be part of the pre-series camp to be held in Antigua ahead of the first test match against India. The 2 will share their knowledge, experience and expertise with the 13-member squad. West Indies and India will play 2 tests from August 22 to 26 at the Sir Vivian Richards Cricket Ground in North Sound, Antigua, and from August 30 to September 3 at the Sabina Park in Kingston, Jamaica. And that's the news on PBCJ. Thanks so much for watching.